I managed today to look both like I'm on safari and I'm the animal? Someone please send me one of those Dyson Airwrap thingies. You do not need fancy equipment to make beautiful fancy chocolate, and I will prove it to you. Hi everyone, it's Tash and welcome to another recipe video, and today I'm going to teach you how to temper chocolate to make lots of lovely chocolate shapes in your projects. We're going to temper chocolate without a thermometer, without even a microwave. I don't actually have a microwave, so this is very handy for me. But why temper chocolate? Can you just melt it and it'll set? The answer is no, not really. When you melt chocolate normally, that is just heat it up until it gets warm enough to melt. Then what you're doing is you're knocking all of those nice uniform cocoa butter crystals out of place. So they were like that before and the chocolate was nice and snappy, and you're melting it and they're all vibing and getting nice and loose. And when you try and set them, they can't really. It's like they've had a good night out, they can't really function. Now, in order to get them back in line, you have to either get them to the exact right temperature, in which case you'd need a thermometer, and you'd also need to know the setting temperatures for each different type of chocolate, because milk, dark and white chocolate actually have slightly different setting temperatures. I can't actually remember them off the top of my head, but luckily I've never had to because I have my technique. Or you can introduce some already tempered chocolate and it sort of teaches those cocoa butter crystals to, oh yeah, that's what we do, we get back into shape. That method is called seeding. Now, apart from seeding or using a thermometer, you can also use a method called tabling to bring your chocolate back into the right temperature. And that usually involves having a cool surface, usually marble, and then scraping and mixing the chocolate until you feel the texture is completely right. That one does take a bit of practice because obviously you need to know by sight and by feel how the chocolate feels when it's just melted and when it's tempered. And also you kind of need a marble slab. Where did the sun just go? I don't have marble work surfaces, I just have like the fake cheap stuff that they use in all of these apartments these days. So my method is actually the seeding method. And that's when you partially melt a bit of chocolate and then introduce some tempered chocolate back into that melted chocolate to bring it back to that correct temperature and to give the cocoa butter crystals a bit of a nudge to remind them. You can actually use a microwave for this method, but if you don't, then don't worry because I don't, and this is the method I use, and you use a water bath for it. So you'll be surprised how easy it actually is to temper chocolate without equipment. Once you know how to temper chocolate, you can make all sorts of things. You can make your own filled chocolates. As long as you have a mould, you'll be able to use that tempered chocolate to coat the mould. You can fill it with other stuff. You can make your own chocolate bars, and you can make lots of fancy desserts too. In fact, I'm going to do one next week, but for now, let's concentrate on how to actually temper your chocolate. So let's go to the kitchen and see how it's done. Before we start, a little demo. We have two types of chocolate here. Both are dark chocolate, but only one is tempered. Do you know which one? I probably gave it away by tapping it. It is this one. You can see it is very glossy and dark, and it does have a little bit of stripes in it. That's because I didn't stir quite vigorously enough while I was tempering it. If you're lucky and have a tempering machine, it'll do it for you, but it is important to keep stirring to make sure all of the oils and cocoa butter is evenly distributed. But as you can see, it still works even if you don't stir like the devil himself. This one I just melted. I didn't care about the heat or how long it was on. I just completely melted the chocolate. While this one, I melted it in a particular way to temper it. Let's see the difference. You can already see by sight that this one has a bit of a sheen to it, and this one is completely matte. Now the tempered one, I haven't even set in the fridge. Oh, you can see the glossiness. This I actually just tempered and then poured it onto my foil, and I left it out. And it has set at room temperature. It's about 22 degrees at the moment. This one did not set, and I had to put it in the fridge to kind of get any type of solids at all. And I'm going to attempt to peel it away, and it is fighting me, but it is doing it because I have put it in the fridge. But oh gosh, you can see it's already melting. That is not a good sign, whereas that one was very forgiving. Let me wash my hands for the next part. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, you will want to temper chocolate whenever you want to make solid chocolate shapes. And you don't have to worry about tempering chocolate whenever you're just mixing it into a cake, or if you actually want a soft chocolate and you don't want it to stand up by itself. With tempered chocolate, you can see it's solid. I picked it up, it's not instantly melting into goo, and listen to this. So it's very crisp, and I don't want to say brittle because brittle means easily breakable. I suppose chocolate is easily breakable, but it is kind of snappably brittle, and that's what you need. And if I hold it like that, it's not going to flop over. Nice and solid. Now, let's get messy. Of course it will melt after time because it is chocolate. Let's get more messy with the untempered chocolate. So say I wanted to make a chocolate sphere, which I am actually going to make for my next recipe video. I am not going to want to use untempered melted chocolate because like instantly it does that. But also, oh gosh, it's slipping away in my hands. Let me try and snap it. Oh, that is unsatisfying. That is, yeah. It's very floppy, and as you can see, even as I'm holding it up now, apart from melting much more rapidly, it's just flopping over. Not good. Let me just grab the tempered chocolate. As you can see, I'm not making it up, I'm holding it for the same amount of time, and yeah, it's melting more slowly and it's not flopping around. I can't do it unless I snap it like that. And that is why you'll want to temper chocolate for some things and not bother for other things. So without further ado, let me show you how to temper your chocolate to make chocolate decorations and stuff with no equipment. So we're starting with a pan of barely simmering water. And I've got, this is about 25 grams of dark chocolate. Place it in there, these are quite big blocks. And what we're going to do is we're going to half melt this, so we're not going to fully melt it. Remember to give it a poke every so often. Don't want it to over melt. Actually, that looks fine to me. I'm going to take this off the heat, but I'm going to leave this pan on because we might need it in a bit. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to stir this in the bowl, which is still hot, until the rest of this is melted. Now this is still just melted chocolate, it hasn't been tempered yet. To temper it, we need to seed it, and that is to introduce some already tempered chocolate. So I've got another, like this is more than 25 grams. Usually 25 adding into 25 melted is enough, but make sure you have a little bit more just to have a bit of leeway. So I'm going to add in another block of unmelted chocolate, and I'm going to melt that too. And all you need to do is keep adding unmelted chocolate until no more will melt, and then it would have reached perfect temper. You're doing two things here. You're slowly cooling down that melted chocolate, and you're also introducing those cocoa butter crystals that's nice and uniform, and you're kind of reminding the other cocoa butter crystals in there, which were all jigged up when we melted it, reminding them how to get back in line. Keep stirring, by the way, because sometimes the cocoa butter separates and you don't want streaky chocolate, and you want a nice even temper. Now if you want to speed this process up even more, you can actually transfer your melted chocolate, this isn't tempered yet, into a cool bowl, because of course our whole bowl has been heated up. So if you want to cool it down a little bit faster, then this is how you do it. I usually don't though, but because I have a few projects I have to get through today, I do need to step up my game a bit. But you can just keep stirring literally until the bowl gets cool. Right, so this is still hot chocolate, so we need to add a little bit more. So now I have added about another 25 grams to that first 25 grams of chocolate. And usually I find this is enough, but like I said, sometimes it takes a little bit more time, especially if you're working with quite a hot bowl, and you might need a little more. So always have a bit spare. Now you'll notice when the chocolate begins to reach the perfect setting temperature that it will start to get a little bit stiff. And that's absolutely fine, that's actually what you want. And this is actually why we've left our pan on the heat. I've switched it off, but it's still steaming, because in order to make chocolate shapes, you do need the chocolate a bit looser. So if it gets too stiff, then just pop it back on your steaming pot just for a few seconds to loosen it back up. But remember, not for too long because you don't want to take it out of temper. Now this block of chocolate here doesn't seem to want to melt anymore, so let's test if this is in temper or not. And the easiest way to do that is to dip a metal spoon just in the end and pop it in the fridge literally for a few seconds. I shall put it in just for a minute, and I will keep stirring because it is very important to keep stirring. If you are lucky enough to own a tempering machine, firstly, super jealous. Secondly, a good one will have a stirring paddle in the middle and it will do all of that work for you. Right, it's literally been 30 seconds. Let's check on that spoon. Yes, and that is already perfect. You can see it's glossy, a little bit cloudy because we have put it in the fridge. It will go glossier as it unchills, and you can touch it, nothing's coming off, and lovely, it's holding its shape. So now that we know our chocolate is in temper, we no longer need this little block that will no longer melt. So I'm going to fish that out. And I'm going to actually put it back because we can use that another time. Now I've got some mini molds here I'm going to fill, and actually this chocolate's now quite a bit thick, so I'm going to put this on top of my steaming pan just for maybe 10 seconds. As you can see, that's loosened it up a tad, and now I'm just going to fill my mini bar molds. Actually, the best way to make sure that everything gets into the nooks and crannies is to give it a bash. I have a little palette knife here which I can use to scrape the excess. Ooh, definitely put it back in a bowl. And there you have it. I'm just going to clean up these ones because I actually wanted to use those to show you how to do it with milk and white chocolate. And it's the exact same thing, but I will have to clean that up a bit first. Now we're going to do the exact same thing with milk chocolate. This is 25 grams again. I'm going to half melt it, then take it off the heat and stir it until the rest of it's melted, and then gradually add in up to maybe a little bit over 25 grams extra milk chocolate. This technique works with any kind of chocolate, by the way, including ruby chocolate and blonde chocolate, not just your regular milk dark and white. So it's quite handy when you want to make different sorts of chocolate shapes and stuff. So in theory you could take pretty much any chocolate bar, melt it and temper it using this technique, and then reset it into whatever shape you want. And now I'm going to do the exact same thing but with white chocolate. Now white chocolate is a little bit weird for some reason, maybe because it has no cocoa solids to buffer that cocoa butter, but do be a bit more gentle with the heat and don't leave it for too long because it melts a bit weird and sometimes it seizes. Also depends what white chocolate you use. So actually, when you want to temper white chocolate, make sure you're using a good quality white chocolate with a high cocoa butter content. This one has 30 to 35% cocoa butter. And I love flavouring white chocolate with dry ingredients like matcha and dried strawberry powder. Now it's time to unmould our chocolates. Here we are. Lovely. Let's start with those. Actually, let's start with the white ones first, because once I get my hands into the dark chocolate, I don't want it to mark the white chocolate. Oh, lovely. And see how easily they come out of that mould, they just pop out. And you can hear how crisp they are when they hit the plate. Or maybe I shouldn't do that too hard. I'll be careful. Beautiful. Aren't these just so stunning? And they're so cute too. Perfectly formed little chocolate bars. And although you can't see much in slow-mo, you can definitely hear it. Ooh, we have the sun back. Listen to this. Sounds like Lego. That's a sign of good tempered chocolate. It's all snappy. It's nice and brittle. It's not melting like crazy. Of course it will melt, but it's not instantly turning into liquid water chocolate when I touch it, like I did with the untempered chocolate. And nice snap. The chocolate's nice and smooth, it doesn't have any graininess because we didn't overheat it, we always use quite a low flame. And these are just so cute. I love putting them on little cupcakes and donuts and stuff. Now you know how to temper chocolate to make chocolate shapes without any extra fancy equipment. Thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed today's video and I hope you will join me next Wednesday for my next one. Get the full written recipe on tashcakes.com and find me on Instagram, I'm tashcakes.tastes. And I'm Food in Slow Motion on TikTok. Subscribe and hit the notification bell if you'd like to see more. Give this video a like if you liked it to help other people find it. Comment down below if you'd like me to make anything in particular, and I will see you guys next time. Be good, be nice, and have a good week.